The Second World War, often shortened to World War II or 1-2, was a global conflict that lasted from 1939 to 1945. Countries from all corners of the globe were drawn into the fight, making it the deadliest war in human history. Millions of soldiers and civilians lost their lives and entire cities were reduced to rubble. The war began on September 1st, 1939, when Nazi Germany, led by the dictator Adolf Hitler, invaded Poland. Hitler's ambition for German expansion and domination fueled the conflict. Great Britain and France, determined to stop Hitler's aggression, declared war on Germany 2 days later. The world watched in horror as the fighting spread like wildfire. Japan, seeking to expand its empire in Asia, joined the war in 1941. The conflict raged across Europe, Asia, Africa, and the Pacific, leaving a trail of devastation in its wake. This war wasn't just fought on battlefields, it was a war that touched the lives of ordinary people, families, children, and communities in every corner of the globe. It was a fight for freedom, for justice, and for a better future. World War II involved many countries, but the main players were divided into two opposing alliances, the Allies and the Axis. The Axis powers, driven by ideologies of hate and expansion, included Germany, Italy, and Japan. They sought to redraw the world map according to their own ambitions. Germany, led by the ruthless Adolf Hitler, was the driving force behind the Axis. Hitler's Nazi Party promoted a twisted ideology of racial superiority and sought to conquer Europe. Italy, under the fascist dictator Benito Mussolini, joined the war alongside Germany, hoping to share in the spoils of conquest. Japan, with Emperor Hirohito as its figurehead, aimed to establish dominance in Asia and the Pacific. On the other side stood the Allies, a diverse group united in their opposition to the Axis threat. The primary Allied powers were Great Britain, led by Prime Minister Winston Churchill, the United States, which entered the war in 1941 after the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor, and the Soviet Union under the leadership of Joseph Stalin. These nations fought to defeat the Axis and defend freedom and democracy. World War II was a complex conflict fought on multiple fronts, from the icy plains of Eastern Europe to the jungles of Southeast Asia. Among the countless battles, some stand out for their ferocity, strategic importance, and lasting impact on the course of the war. The Battle of Stalingrad, fought between August 1942 and February 1943, was a turning point in the war. This brutal, months-long siege in the Soviet city of Stalingrad saw some of the fiercest urban warfare in history. The German army, initially confident of victory, suffered a devastating defeat at the hands of the determined Soviet defenders. Another pivotal battle was the Normandy landings, also known as D-Day, which took place on June 6, 1944. On this day, Allied forces, primarily American, British, and Canadian, launched a massive amphibious assault on the beaches of Normandy, France. This daring operation marked the beginning of the liberation of Western Europe from Nazi control. These are just two examples of the many battles that defined World War II. Each clash of arms, each victory and defeat played a role in shaping the course of the conflict and ultimately determining its outcome. The Second World War split the world into two main sides, the Allies and the Axis. Each side represented different ideologies and goals, leading to a clash of civilizations on a global scale. The Allied powers, led by Great Britain, the United States, and the Soviet Union, fought for freedom, democracy, and a world order based on international cooperation. They opposed the aggression and tyranny of the Axis powers and sought to liberate the countries that had fallen under their control. The Axis powers, on the other hand, represented a dark and dangerous vision of the world. Germany, Italy, and Japan were driven by ideologies of racial superiority, military conquest, and totalitarian rule. They sought to establish empires through force and subjugate other nations to their will. The conflict between these two opposing sides was not just a military one, it was a clash of values, a battle between good and evil. The outcome of the war would determine the fate of nations and shape the world for generations to come. Section 5. The shadow of war life on the home front. While battles raged on distant battlefields, the impact of World War II was deeply felt on the home front. Civilians in every corner of the globe endured hardship, sacrifice, and the ever-present threat of enemy attack. Rationing became a way of life. as governments directed resources towards the war effort. Food, clothing, fuel and other essential goods were strictly controlled, forcing families to make do with less. Women played a vital role, taking on jobs traditionally held by men who were away fighting. Factories were repurposed for wartime production, churning out tanks, planes and munitions. The constant fear of air raids and bombing raids loomed over cities and towns. Air raid sirens became a familiar sound, sending people scrambling for the safety of shelters. Children were evacuated from urban centers to the countryside in hopes of keeping them safe from harm. The war years were a time of uncertainty and anxiety. Families were separated, loved ones were lost, and the future seemed uncertain. Yet, amidst the hardship, there was also a spirit of resilience, a determination to overcome adversity and build a better world. Section 6, the unthinkable, the Holocaust. Amidst the horrors of World War II, one atrocity stands out for its sheer brutality and inhumanity, the Holocaust. Orchestrated by the Nazi regime, the Holocaust was a systematic state-sponsored persecution and murder of 6 million Jews across German-occupied Europe. Driven by a twisted ideology that viewed Jews as an inferior race, the Nazis implemented a plan to eliminate them from Europe. Jews were stripped of their rights, their property, and their dignity. They were rounded up and forced into ghettos, segregated areas with horrific living conditions. Millions were deported to concentration camps where they were subjected to forced labor, starvation, torture, and mass murder. The Nazis used gas chambers to exterminate entire families, men, women, and children, with chilling efficiency. The Holocaust stands as a stark reminder of the depths of human depravity and the devastating consequences of hatred and intolerance. Section 7. Courage Under Fire. Stories of Hope. Even in the darkest days of World War II, stories of courage, compassion and resilience shone through, reminding us of the indomitable spirit of humanity. Ordinary individuals from all walks of life rose to the occasion, performing extraordinary acts of bravery and selflessness. One such story is that of Witold Pilecki, a Polish soldier and resistance fighter who voluntarily allowed himself to be captured and sent to Auschwitz, the most notorious Nazi death camp. His mission was to gather intelligence about the camp's operations and the atrocities being committed there. Pilecki spent over 2 years in Auschwitz, enduring unimaginable suffering while secretly documenting the horrors he witnessed. He eventually escaped and provided the Allies with invaluable information about the Holocaust. Another inspiring tale is that of Irina Sendler, a Polish social worker who risked her own life to save Jewish children from the Warsaw Ghetto. Sendler, along with a network of courageous individuals, smuggled children out of the ghetto, providing them with false identities and finding safe havens for them. She is estimated to have saved the lives of over 2,500 children. These are just 2 examples of the countless acts of courage and compassion that took place during the World War II. They serve as a testament to the strength of the human spirit and the power of hope, even in the face of unimaginable adversity. Section 8. Picking up the pieces. The aftermath. The Second World War finally came to an end in 1945 with the defeat of the Axis powers. The world rejoiced, but the cost of victory was immeasurable. Millions lay dead, cities lay in ruins, and the scars of war ran deep. The war had profound consequences for the world order. The United States and the Soviet Union emerged as superpowers, but their rivalry soon led to the Cold War, a period of geopolitical tension and ideological conflict. The war also gave rise to the United Nations, an international organization dedicated to preventing future conflicts and promoting peace and cooperation. Rebuilding war-torn countries was a monumental task. Europe and Asia lay in ruins, their economies shattered and their populations traumatized. The Marshall Plan, a US-led initiative, provided billions of dollars in aid to help rebuild Western Europe. Gradually, nations began to heal and rebuild, but the memories and lessons of the war continued to shape the world. Section 9. Remembering the past, shaping the future. World War II was a global catastrophe, a conflict that brought out the best and worst of humanity. As we move further away from those dark days, it is more important than ever to remember the sacrifices made, the lessons learned, and the importance of striving for peace. Remembering the war means honoring the millions who fought and died, both soldiers and civilians. It means preserving their stories, learning from their experiences, and ensuring that their sacrifices were not in vain. It also means acknowledging the horrors of the Holocaust, challenging hatred and intolerance in all its forms, and working to prevent such atrocities from ever happening again. The lessons of World War II are as relevant today as they were decades ago. We must be vigilant in defending freedom and democracy, promoting tolerance and understanding, and resolving conflicts peacefully. By remembering the past and learning from its mistakes, we can strive to create a more peaceful and just world for future generations.